Good morning, everybody, as you come in. This is one of the largest groups we've ever had, so thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It'll take some time for everybody to come in from the waiting room. And as those of you who have been here before, you know, to any questions you'd like to ask, please just ask them in the chat. I've stopped giving direction as to how to use Zoom because I think everybody knows how now. So if you don't know how, send me something in the chat. But no, you wouldn't know how. You see. And these brown bag lunches are fairly quick, so I talk a lot less than I usually do. And Anais is running the board, and she'll be mad at me, but I'm going to start anyway as people are coming in because we're already 2 minutes after the hour. It's 1 o'clock here in Kitchener-Waterloo, and it's much later in South Africa. And if you look out Mike's window there behind him, you can see how beautifully green it is there. So first, my bad joke. If Paul Barnes is here, he insists that I tell a bad joke. Did you hear about the little grape who didn't want to be made into wine? Unfortunately, he was pressed into service. That's got to be a good one. That's not even a groaner, right? That's actually funny. No, it's not. Okay, so without further ado, I'd like to introduce our two guests from South Africa today. They are from Vilafonté, and we've got the co-founder and owner, Mike Ratcliffe, is with us, and the head winemaker, Chris de Vries, is with us. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining us from so far away and from much nicer climes than we have here in Canada. And I did want to mention before we hand it over to Mike that Vilafonté just recently won a very prestigious award as the best red winemaker in the world. And it's from a very prestigious competition called the International Wine and Spirits Competition. And globally, they have chosen Vilafonté as the best red wine. I am drinking the Seriously Old Dirt, and I can attest to that. And I've tasted the M as well. I was actually with Chris in South Africa and trying their wines there, and I can't say enough about them. I mean, easily my top 10. So without any more from me, over to you, Mr. Mike Ratcliffe. Thank you again for joining us.
Well, hello everybody. Good evening from South Africa. I know it's lunchtime wherever you are, or at least before lunch or after lunch, but it's great to be chatting to you. As you can see behind me, it's a beautiful evening. The sun is setting, and yeah, it's great to be with you. I thought that I would get straight into it and just start with a little bit of history to give you a little bit about Vilafonté. Firstly, as you can tell from my accent, I actually am a Canadian citizen. My family is, my mother was born in Edmonton. I have family in BC, Nanaimo, Vancouver Island, Victoria, and Penticton, and my sister lives in Oakville in Toronto. So it's great to see you guys. Vilafonté, this year, it's a wonderful year. We started celebrating 25 years. Our first vineyard was planted in 1997, and it's actually a joint venture between South Africa and California. So 25 years ago this year, I partnered with two amazing Californians, a lady called Dr. Zelma Long, certainly one of the most well-known winemakers in California, but certainly in the world, the first woman to be included in the Wine Spectator Hall of Fame, and one of the first two women ever to qualify from UC Davis. And my other partner, Dr. Phil Fries, 25 years later, he planted Opus One. He was head of viticulture for Mondavi, and vice president of viticulture for Opus. And so we've been embarking on this crazy venture ever since. But before I get too stuck into the conversation, I know we don't have a huge amount of time. I thought that it would be a good opportunity to give you some visuals and to show you exactly what our vineyard looks like, and just to put everything into context. So I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to play you a little video that comes from South Africa. Here we go. This is only less than a minute long, so bear with me. And there you have it. Just give you a little bit of a flavor of where we are, right at the southern tip of Africa, about 40 minutes northeast of Cape Town. And yeah, it's the middle of summer. It was 34 degrees centigrade today. So just to put that in perspective, I believe that it's minus 35 in some parts of Canada. Before I bore you too much.
Thanks for reminding us, Mike.
Sorry about that, Michael.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more about what we do. We are an absolute specialist winery. We only do produce 3 wines. We only produce blends, I guess, which you could categorize into the Bordeaux blend style. We only have 4 grapes growing on our property: Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Malbec. Malbec is a variety that's not very common in South Africa, so we've been seen as some sort of pioneer in that grape. And yeah, we've been having a lot of fun over the last 25 years, as Michael said, winning a couple of awards along the way. And yeah, and that's been the journey. There's much more to talk about, but I thought that I would hand over to Chris. Chris is head winemaker for Vilafonté. We're not going to try to talk about too many wines today. We're going to talk about one, and we're going to talk about Seriously Old Dirt. So Chris, I'm going to hand over to you to talk about Seriously Old Dirt, give everyone some background on it, and then we can maybe have some Q&A and look at some of that chat as well. Chris, it's yours.
Super. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Michael, for the introduction, and good afternoon to all the guests. And we're very fortunate to have you all with us. So Michael posed the question, what is the unique point about Seriously Old Dirt? And I suppose that brings us back to the first point in Vilafonté. What is Vilafonté? So Vilafonté is a stylized version of the name to a viticultural soil found in South Africa. It's a very unique soil, and so far it is the oldest documented soil known to man. So in the early years, when our partners Zelma Long and Phil Fries found this particular piece of land in South Africa, they found this unique soil. And with their background in making premier Bordeaux style red blends, this was the perfect marriage, finding this ancient terroir and planting Bordeaux varieties to produce one wine was the initial focus. So that brings us back to the fun name, Seriously Old Dirt. Well, Vilafonté's is Seriously Old Dirt. And that was something that Dr. Phil Fries said in an interview with Robert Parker some years ago. So I suppose some years along the line, that name stuck. So our first vintage of Seriously Old Dirt, a second wine by Style, was 2012. So we've come some vintages down, and 2020 will be, our first our vintage coming on premiere to your shores quite soon. And 2021, last year, was our 10th vintage. So quite something. But coming back to what is unique about Seriously Old Dirt, we make wines on some of the oldest viticultural soils and agricultural soils in the world, not only in our Vilafonté's estate vineyard, but in certain vineyards that we have sought out to grow the Seriously Old Dirt. In recent years, we made a conscious decision to make a Cabernet-led blend, and this has been our focus from the beginning. And we believe that these wines showcase the beautiful primary fruit character that South Africa has yet to be known for, but we make absolutely classic wines. So I think the strength of the vineyards that we have sought out is the youth of these vineyards and these special soils that showcase the supple tannins, beautiful fresh fruit profile, and of course our interest in the ancient soils of the world.
Hey, and I've got something to say. So something that nobody, Chris didn't know I was going to say this tonight, and nobody knows about it, but just today we found out that Seriously Old Dirt was included as one of the Decanter magazine wines of the year for 2021. So give it up for Chris. I mean, it's an incredible achievement and so we're jumping up and down.
Yeah, well done, well done. And having it in my glass right now, I think it deserves these accolades. It's just a remarkable wine. And I think Sophia told me from Vilafonté yesterday that because of the way when we order in the year in the cycle, we're actually the first people in the world to get it en premiere, right? So these 2020s that are in the catalog right now, we're going to be the first people in the world to have this wine, and that's just a remarkable thing.
So actually the very first person to taste this wine in the world, other than Chris and our little team, was Jane Masters, who's as many of you will know, tastes wine for Permium, and she makes all the final decisions. So she got the very first bottled sample that got sent to her. And yes, the very first client in the world ever to receive this wine, which will be by at least 6 weeks, will be Permium. We're pretty proud of the 2020. Chris, how does the 2020 compare to the 2019?
I think the 2020 showcases the beautiful pedigree of Vilafonté. It is as good, if not better, than the 2019. And similar Cabernet regime, 86%. It also showcases slightly more Merlot, where the Cabernet Franc in the 2019 was higher. But we're really proud of the 2020 coming to your shores soon.
And looking forward, Chris, you were saying that the vines today are growing really quickly because of a lot of moisture, and so you're having to do canopy management quite a bit, right?
They are. So we had a test call yesterday, Michael, Sophia, and myself, and I was fresh out of the vineyards. So it was an inflection point, I suppose, where you in Canada are having such cold temperatures, and I suppose Southern Hemisphere, where we're right after veraison in the phenology of our vines. And as Michael pointed out, we've had an interesting season so far. So our spring rains didn't cease after a really good winter, wet winter. Summer rains continued unabated, and that's led to quite a bit of vegetative growth. So Edward, our wine grower, has had quite a bit of work where the vines have grown lushly in order to bring the focus back to ripening fruit. There was quite a lot of lateral shoot removal. And at this stage, our vines are starting to ripen those berries. So we're at that stage where you see softening of the berries and full color starting to form on those bunches.
So has anybody got any questions? Because we're ready to answer them. So please put them in the chat, or alternatively, if you really feel like it and you want to be in the prime time in the spotlight, then you can also put your hand up, but that might not work. Hey, I want to tell you guys a question.
Yeah, with this size, Mike, go ahead. Go ahead, Mike.
I want to just fill in a little bit more on the name Seriously Old Dirt. Chris told the story very well about the encounter with Robert Parker, but ultimately, living in Southern Africa, we live in what is commonly referred to as the cradle of humankind, which encompasses most of Southern Africa. It's one of the few places in the world where there was never glaciation. We have some of the oldest, we have the oldest documented soils in the world. And originally, the oldest documented soil in the world is actually called Vilafontés. And that's where our name comes from. The patch of dirt that we call home, that we stick Cabernet and other classic varieties into, is in fact called Vilafontés. So that's where it all started. And hence Seriously Old Dirt. But we have been exploring and experimenting. We are finding incredible streaks of soils that are that much older. And we're just finding that classic varieties planted on these incredibly old soils are outrageous. Just to put it into perspective, the soils that we have are somewhere between 750,000 and 1.5 million years old. But if you go to Bordeaux, well, depending on how you define it, you're talking in hundreds of years, or at a maximum 30,000 years, and Napa closer to 40,000 years. So it's a whole different kind of place for people that are geologically curious. So
Bordeaux's
hopefully
just
that
a
actually
baby, eh, Mike?
yeah, I mean, they've just floated it out of the swamp.
That's right.
But yeah, they're starting to make some pretty snappy wines in Bordeaux, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, and there are some questions coming in. Jean-Paul is asking about the youth of the vineyards. Will the wine continue to improve in quality as those vines get older, Chris?
Absolutely. So I suppose one of the important factors from a youthful vine is potentially it has a long life ahead of it, and each year subsequent to that, the reserves that you're able to put down in the autumn and into the winter yield a more complex offering to those grapes the following year. So it's a real wealth available to us. Also, the health of those younger vineyards. So it's a beautiful thing to have.
Great. And then
See, there's a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I'll just jump into the questions. I see there's a question from Paul Barnes. Where globally are most of the Vilafonté wines marketed? You know, we're not a massive winery, so we're not everywhere. We will never be everywhere. We tend to focus on the people that have been loyal to us over the last years. For example, we've been working with the Pimium for I don't know how long, but a very long time. And in general, any growth that we have in our production tends to get gobbled up by our existing clients. So most places in the world you will not find seriously old dirt. We have continents like South America, India, you know, Russia, places like that simply we will never have the volume to satisfy those markets. My wife is British, so we have to have wine in the UK. We do sell wine in South Africa. We sell wine in about 5 or 6 states in the United States, and the rest is in South Africa. We just don't have any more, I'm afraid.
Right. And do you mind going into the production? A couple of people have asked how many bottles of 2020 are made of the seriously old
I'm not
dirt.
sure what the production numbers are on the 2020. I think the 2019 was about 98,000 bottles. So in the swing of things, not very big. As you can see, that kind of volume doesn't go very far.
What I can tell you is that in real time, Mike, I'm looking at our website right now, and there's only 184 cases of it left, so they better go fast. It's week 5, which is always just crazy. We do 40% of our sales in that last week of the cellar, and so these will go very, very quickly, so don't miss out.
We know my mom taught me 3 things. My mom is a winemaker, Edmontonian mom. Classically trained as a textile designer, ended up being a winemaker in South Africa. She was the first female winemaker in South Africa, and she taught me 3 things. The first one was try to do business with people that you like. That's got to be a good piece of advice. The second one is do business in places you like to visit, and if you can do that all with a product that you're in love with, well, then everything's going to be okay. So as you can see, we sell our wine in the countries that we like to visit, and we do business with the people that we like.
You've taken that advice to heart, absolutely. And so I'm seeing about the shipping and inventory issues because of COVID. Is that something you guys can speak to, or I can do that as well?
Chris, you can have a stab at that one.
Yeah, I suppose it's been interesting worldwide, where shipping has come to a halt in many ports, largely due to staffing, number one, during COVID. Also backlogs in terms of ships entering a circle pattern and not being able to offload. And then, of course, containers unavailability. But we are quite fortunate in that shipping has started to wake up, particularly in South Africa. But in some of our export markets, even their ports have been backlogged. And I'm sure, Michael, you can speak to that. Even in our imports of barrels, since South Africa is far removed from our source of French oak barrels, particularly this year, we've had to place orders 2 months in advance of normal. And yeah, it's quite challenging when you're placing your order at bloom when you don't fully know what the magnitude of your yield and vintage is going to be. Where the Northern Hemisphere is able to order and procure as they need. It's far easier to have deliverables in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yeah, and I can say that they've had labor strife at all the major ports in Canada, and that's been a huge issue. But the big one has been the availability of sea cans to actually get the wine into something to get it on the water. And that's delayed things. We've done fairly well. Our average used to be about 5 months from order, and it's around 6.5 months right now. One of the things we're going to be seeing in the future is that the cost of shipping has gone through the roof. It's just it's a supply and demand piece, right? And right now supply is not good, and demand is huge. So that's what's happening with that shipping.
I've got a comment going back to volume and production is, being a small family-owned winery, we're just the opposite of corporate. We make the wines ourselves with our own hands, and we get dirty doing it. But that also gives us the benefit of being able to know our customers. And, to all of you out there, if you ever have any questions, we're readily accessible. All our email addresses on the website, or if you want to have a chat. We take pride in telling the story, ongoing stories of how we make Vilafonté, interesting things that happen in the winery. If any of you are on social media, please follow us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. We really take pride in the fact that we are telling stories constantly. And reach out also if you have questions, whether it's food pairing, you get your wine shipment from Opimium and you want to know what to pair it with, or you're looking for a good recipe. My wife is a crackerjack chef, and she bangs out some killer recipes all the time. So we're small enough that we love doing that kind of stuff, having fun and chatting to you all, just like we are right now, which is fabulous.
Yeah, and it's one of the pillars of Opimium, right, is to connect our members across Canada with you guys and all around the world, and making the best wines. It's just phenomenal. I say almost every one of these that I've got the best job in the world, so it's just great. So, and
so there's a question.
Yeah,
I see there's a question from Darren. Can I tackle that?
Please do.
So the question for everyone: are you finding the increased costs are for you to increase the cost of the wine that may come back down after the shortage of labors and containers? I don't know if that's to me or to Michael, but I'll tackle it from our side.
Mm-hmm.
So in general, we've been able to maintain costs. There are some things that have gone up a lot, but in general, across the board, our costs have not gone up. We anticipate being able to hold prices for this year. Our plan is to not put prices up next year either. And I guess the only thing that the biggest influence over time will be interest rates, and we never know not interest rates, exchange rates, and we never know which way they're going to go. But at this stage, we don't anticipate putting our prices up. A lot of people say, well, now that you've won this big trophy, and now that Vilafonté's got a little bit of fame, it's going to get more expensive. But we don't play that game. Our wines are not cheap, but we think they offer good value. And there you go. The fact that 60 of you on the call means that at least 60 of you agree with me. So thank you for that.
That's right. And certainly from the Opimium perspective, everything we do has gotten more expensive, from the paper in the catalogs that we send out to the shipping. And there's been some poor harvests around the world too. So Burgundy went up like crazy because they just don't have any wine. And so we're trying, as a not-for-profit, we try to keep the prices where they are, but I wouldn't be surprised if some prices are going up there. That's just part of the, and it's not all COVID either. It's just it's just the way of the world right now. So and that's the nice thing about a not-for-profit. If things get cheaper, we pass that through too, and hopefully that pendulum will swing again in the next few years as well. So we are over time already, and I forgot to tell you guys that you had to stay on till the end in order to qualify for the draw for the wine credits. So those of you who left without me telling you, sorry about that. but I think everybody's still on, and it's great when we get this kind of engagement and this number of questions. And the gentlemen here are obviously willing to stay on if you have any others. We've got impact on climate change. Chris, do you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose in 2018, I don't know if anyone heard about Z-Day, which was the day and the ticking clock down to zero availability of water in the southwestern Cape. So the drought conditions for 4 years previous led to the culmination of a year where we were terrified of having no water availability for consumption. And I suppose that really bucked everyone up in terms of their response to availability of water and how we manage our finite resources. So at Vilafonté, it's an ongoing project, but we do find that we manage our water resources well, but we've got a project where we directly inject water into the root zone of our vines rather than a more broad approach, and that saves up to 70% of normal water with drip irrigation. So in climate change, there have been shifts forward and backward in terms of having really warm years. We've been fortunate in the last 2 years where we've had really good winter rains that have broken the cycle. This past vintage, we actually saw the heaviest rains we've had in decades. So I suppose it is exactly that, climate change, rather than just saying it's global warming. But I suppose one of the other terrifying facts is that molecular carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is going up at an alarming rate. So we, in this year, are also looking at a full spectrum look at how to be more sustainable as a winery.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Chris. So I think we will wrap it up. We're at half an hour now, and really appreciate, again, Mike and Chris, I can't say it enough how much we appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you and ask you questions. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate getting to try your wine and drink your wine, because it's a delight of my day, I have to tell you. So cheers to everybody. Thank you. Anise will do the draw right after this, and we'll inform the 2 lucky winners that get to use their wine credit towards Seriously Old Dirt, or Series M if you like as well. So thank you everybody for joining us. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thank you.